Hello, and welcome back to Animation Movies Revisited, where we take a look back at some of the most influential animated films and rediscover why they've left a lasting impression throughout the years. For this episode, you'll want to grab a cup of hot chocolate and some freshly baked sugar cookies, because we're traveling to the North Pole to look back at Larry Roemer's 1964 stop-motion animated holiday classic, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Decades before Ernest Saved Christmas or Buddy the Elf spread holiday cheer all over New York City, Videocraft International gave everyone the gift of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. The family-friendly event film is a first-of-its-kind Christmas special that dashed and danced its way into the hearts of millions. Inspired by the John Marks song of the same name, the stop-motion animated marvel, co-created by Arthur Rankin and Jules Bass, features characters and story beats from the timeless tune. Like any adaptation worth its salt, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer goes beyond the source material to teach audiences valuable lessons about bullying, remorse, and keeping the spirit of Christmas alive. The original concept for Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer hails from a Jewish Montgomery Ward copywriter named Robert May. Conceived in 1939, May was given almost a year to craft an original holiday story to market to department store customers. During the creative process, May experienced several hardships, including the death of his wife from cancer in July of that year. Instead of abandoning the project, May relished the distraction and continued developing ideas. He ultimately found inspiration in his daughter's love for reindeer living at the Lincoln Park Zoo. After telling the story in 89 couplets, Montgomery Ward converted May's poem into a 32-page booklet. The store distributed more than 2 million copies of the story to customers that season to say thanks for their patronage. After World War II, Montgomery Ward offered May the rights to Rudolph's tale. Stunned by his good fortune, May turned to his brother-in-law, Johnny Ward, to write songs related to the story. After various revisions, May contacted musical artists like Bing Crosby, Dinah Shore, and Perry Como to help bring the music to life. Ultimately, Gene the Singing Cowboy Autry took the job and began recording the holiday-inspired earworm that's burrowed its way into innumerable skulls worldwide. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer became a sensation, dominating the Billboard charts as a holiday anthem for generations. Fatefully, May lived near Arthur Rankin, who became interested in featuring Rudolph in his upcoming Christmas special, sponsored by General Electric. After connecting several dots and speaking to friends in opportunistic places, May, Rankin, Bass, Montgomery Ward, and General Electric moved into production on Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Rankin and Bass hired Romeo Earl Muller Jr. to write Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, who partnered with animation writer Tony Peters for the project. Peters expanded the characters' personalities, applying a thin layer of nuance to Rudolph and those he meets along his journey. Rankin and Bass had worked with Muller on their first network television special, Return to Oz, for NBC's General Electric Fantasy Hour. In the special based on the work by Frank Baum, Dorothy returned to Oz and is alarmed to find that the Wicked Witch of the West has come back to life. The emerald-skinned villain wants revenge and, in addition to kidnapping the Wizard of Oz, has cast a spell erasing the gifts and abilities of Dorothy's friends. The duo loved Muller's teleplay and wanted him to bring Rudolph's underdog story to television screens. In Muller's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the titular reindeer is the son of a loving mother and Donner, one of Santa's 8 tiny reindeer. After Donner discovers his son's nose is different than the other calves, he forcibly persuades Rudolph to hide his shiny sniffer with an uncomfortable covering. Already feeling othered but willing to conceal his gleaming feature for acceptance, Rudolph attempts to join the reindeer games before being outed by accident. After other reindeer laugh and call him names, Rudolph runs away. While hiding from his family and would-be friends, Rudolph makes new acquaintances in Hermie the Elf and Yukon Cornelius, a rejected toy shop worker and enthusiastic prospector, respectively. Finding comfort in each other's company, the trio explores the expanse of the Arctic before ultimately returning to the North Pole to help Santa save Christmas. The story concludes with Rudolph using his bright red nose to light Santa's way through a thick fog as he delivers presents to good children across the globe. In the end, Rudolph gains acceptance from his father and the other reindeer, though not before embarking on a soul-searching journey fraught with self-doubt, daddy issues, and surviving a vicious, abominable snowman attack. Production for Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer lasted for 18 months and cost $500,000 to produce. When converted for inflation, amounts to over $4.5 million in US dollars. While that's a staggering amount of money for 1963, Montgomery Ward was well aware of Rudolph's potential and how they could transform the film's impending popularity into mounds of advertising dollars. That's right, kids. Powering the warm heart of this holiday classic is a cold and calculating circulatory system of capitalism. However, I can't drag Montgomery Ward too much. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer screened for 55% of TV audiences. Please take a moment to appreciate how many people that amounts to. Then tell me you wouldn't sacrifice Santa on the altar of consumerism. To help bring Rankin and Bass's Christmas special to life, the duo reached out to Tadahito Tad Machinaga, an up-and-coming puppeteer and propaganda filmmaker from Japan. Rankin met Machinaga in 1959 during a tour of Japanese animation studios. Machinaga's reputation for manipulating puppets with uncanny realism preceded him, and Rankin was determined to work with him. With Rankin's sights set on Japan, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer quickly became a multinational effort. The voice acting would be recorded in Canada, while the music would be composed in England. Communication between the teams was paramount to the project's success. Thankfully, everyone working on the special was passionate about the work, and their love for their respective crafts kept production firmly on the rails. With Machinaga in charge of animation, it was time to welcome Ichiro Kamuro to the fold. 22 handmade sets were expertly crafted for the film, giving the 4-inch puppets a winter wonderland to explore and interact with throughout the cautionary Christmas tale. While contemporary audiences can view the animation in Rudolph as crude by today's standards, it's difficult not to recognize the care that went into animating specific characters. Take Rudolph, for example. Machinaga traveled to Nara, Japan, to visit Nara Park, a deer sanctuary introduced in 1880. Like an enchanted glen in a Studio Ghibli film, the deer are so content they often interact with visitors, letting Machinaga and his assistant get up close and personal with the majestic creatures. The pair recorded copious notes, collected sketches, and studied the animals' movement in their natural habitat. This information would prove invaluable when animating the film's reindeer, who prance, frolic, and fly in the 47-minute film. Unless you create a silent movie, you'll want actors to voice your animated characters. Billy Mae Richards plays Rudolph in the holiday-themed animation, who, for all of you 80s kids out there, is also the voice of Tenderheart Bear in the first 2 Care Bears movies. Paul Soles voices Hermie the Elf. Larry D. Mann blusters and bellows as Yukon Cornelius. Paul Kligman plays Donner, Peg Dixon as Mrs. Donner, Janice Orenstein as Clarence, Stan Francis as Santa Claus and King Moonracer, and musician Burl Ives as Sam the Snowman. Using Ampex tape recorders and a unique Western electric microphone, sound engineer Bill Giles captured the performance at RCA Victor's studio in Canada. The goal was to record the voices in their natural resonance, instead of dressing up the dialogue with auditory augmentations. Speaking of audio, let's unwrap the music featured in the film. John Marks wrote the songs for Rudolph, with musical director Maury Laws arranging the ancillary score. The duo combined their talents to assign unique themes to each character. These themes accompany their respective characters at different points in the film, announcing their involvement in the story while adding to the background score. Other holiday classics, including Rocking Around the Christmas Tree and I Hear the Bells on Christmas Day, can be heard as well. While the film's score has never been released, Decca Records released an LP version of the soundtrack in 1964. Mint copies of the original record are considered a collector's item, and you'd be a hit at any Christmas party if you threw this particular wax onto a turntable. The legacy established by Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is nothing short of a Christmas miracle. Montgomery Ward assumed Rankin and Bass's holiday special would do well, but no one could have anticipated its lasting appeal. Animation methods have evolved in the decades since Rudolph's release, but there's something timeless about the film and characters hailing from this era of animagic animation. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is such a massive hit that it's been rebroadcast yearly. More than 50 years after its release, families still gather around the glow of the flat screen to join Rudolph in his reindeer games. Rankin and Bass Productions continued making holiday-themed specials for more than a decade after Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer helped make them a household name. The studio released The Little Drummer Boy in 1968, Frosty the Snowman in 1969, and Santa Claus is Comin' to Town in 1970. Muller wrote all 4 of Rankin and Bass's holiday specials, creating a universe of Christmas cheer that would last for generations. It blows my mind to think watching Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer could have been a family tradition in my household since before I was born. Did my parents leave the movie on as background noise during the holiday season? Was my older sister watching it before me? What will it be like to watch the film as an adult? Does the animation hold up? Will the story stand the test of time? Have I become too sensitive to the antiquated themes, chauvinistic dialogue, and dismissive actions of the characters? The answer is yes. Yes, I have. During my latest rewatch of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, it quickly became apparent that times have changed since Muller penned this classic yet problematic holiday special. Throughout the film, Rudolph's father, Donner, is emotionally and physically abusive. He shames the tiny reindeer for his bright red nose, forcing him to wear a covering to mask his natural physiology. Meanwhile, Santa could care less about Rudolph's safety and is hyper-fixated on executing his Christmas plans like clockwork. I believe that bullying extends beyond Rudolph's reindeer peers, as it lurks within the film's dominant male figure's harsh words and contemptuous actions. These aspects of the film were difficult to ignore, as Hollywood strives to course-correct decades of ableism and sexism on screens. Personal misgivings aside, Rudolph's staying power and influence throughout animation history cannot be denied. Rankin and Bass's holiday special excels at creating a charming holiday aesthetic with characters and atmosphere often emulated by Christmas decoration manufacturers worldwide. Additionally, while the film's animation is a product of its time, it represents one of the earliest successes of the method, paving the way for other notable stop-motion projects. Where would stop-motion filmmakers like Henry Selick, Travis Knight, Peter Lord, and Nick Park be without Rudolph to inspire them? Despite its corporate roots, I admire Rudolph's ability to appeal to generations of fans. People of all ages tune in for the yearly special, making viewings as much of a Christmas holiday tradition as kissing under the mistletoe, or leaving cookies and milk for Santa Claus. Still, I'll give Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer 6 Buzz Lightyears out of 10. The film may be timeless, but that doesn't make it untouchable. Rudolph hails from a bygone era of animation that helps make it a classic, though little beyond the visual and musical elements of the film remain entertaining. Nostalgia is a hell of a weapon in the war against lasting quality, and I found myself disengaging with the story in a way that made me feel like a Grinch. The world of animation owes an unpayable debt to Rankin and Bass's holiday specials, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer included. The film represents decades of joy and entertainment for families around the holidays, and it's impossible to think about Christmas without Rudolph and his stop-motion animated friends. I wish you all the best this coming holiday season. May your days be merry and bright.